Hey guys, I'm Carrot from the Blackwell Core, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Dori-Mic and the Universal Machine, written by David Evans and Dorina Michelle Evans and illustrated by Kim Dyla. Now, as you guys know, before I go into books, I do like to talk a little bit about the authors. I think that sometimes I can give a really good perspective, and it just really helps to get to know them sometimes. So we're going to start off by talking about David Evans. David Evans is, from all my research, a pretty cool guy. He's a CS professor at University of Virginia, located in Virginia, obviously. And he's the kind of guy who would take a Slack poll that has the word uwu in it and not really understand what uwu means and not really get an answer from his students, but he would still say it and then, keep it in his lecture video that he would give to his next class. Not for any particular reason, just because he decided not to cut it out, despite cutting out a lot of stuff that could be relevant. It just seems like that kind of guy, and I think he's pretty cool. Dorina Michelle, as far as I can tell, is one of the leading computer theory theorists, I guess you would say. Fairly very well known within the field. I, as an amateur, don't really have any information, but, if the stuff in the back of the book is anything to go by, then she's pretty important. So those are the authors. Now let's get into the actual story. First thing we're going to talk about with this thing is the plot. Now, the plot of this book is absolutely ridiculous. I think that it does have some really strong points. The emotional arc of the story is really, really good. Like, the author is just really, really adept at sort of making you feel what it is the characters are feeling. And, it's really touching in a lot of ways. I like to be high energy and jokey all the time, but, sometimes you just got to understand, this feels like a real experience someone went through that they're conveying to you through literature. And I think that that's why a lot of us read stories, and it's really important to get that. Just as an example, on page 14, we're going through, a lot of pretty cool stuff, right? And then she gets the universal machine, it's a big deal. Then on page 14, it's just, oh god, I hope this is showing up right. But Dory's machine was not ideal. And you're going through and you're reading that page, and, you're having a blast, and you get to that page, and it's just like, life is pain. Why do we exist? Only to suffer. And ultimately, the book does have a pretty happy ending. I'm obviously not going to spoil the plot. This is a book review. I'd like you guys to go read it. But in general, I just think that, the kind of emotional arc of the story is really the core of the plot. Sometimes the sort of story structure doesn't make sense, and there are a couple plot holes here and there that I'm not really going to go into. I think they're negligible, to be honest, and at the end of the day, it's not really a story that's so focused on, this is the rules of this world. It's an emotional narrative, one meant to really make you feel something, and in that, I think it really, really succeeds. Now, second thing, obviously, this is a picture book, otherwise known as a manga, and so I think it's really important to talk about the artwork and the illustrations. Illustrations done by Kim Dyla. Dilla? It might be Dilla. I'm really sorry if I've been mispronouncing that. Now I've said it both ways. Probably should have checked that before recording. My bad. So, talking about the illustration, obviously we've got this really, really beautiful cover art. Am I framing this? I really hope I'm framing this right. And I think that in general it's pretty good. Obviously I can't show too much of it as a manga. I don't want to show too many spoilers and, copyright reasons. But you can see, just on, on this spread, the drawing is generally pretty good. One thing that I thought was really interesting was it actually felt very reminiscent of the style done by Hirohiko Araki, otherwise known as the mangaka, or author, of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which was the first manga to be put up in the Louvre. Fun little factoid for the day. If anyone's seen any of my other book reviews, you know that I absolutely love JoJo's, and that I absolutely adore Hirohiko Araki, so me comparing these illustrations to him is by no means a criticism. I think that it's really cool to take inspiration from people you respect, and I am always excited to see the different ways the different artists transform their work. Now, having said all that, I think it is important to talk about how everything sort of ties together. I do think that there is a little bit of a dissonance in the artwork compared to the plot, in that the artwork is very, very, I don't want to say comical, it's sort of, it's stylized in a very particular way that's not exactly, like a tragedy. It's more of a comedy. But the plot of the story is written a lot like a tragedy. So, putting them together creates this really weird genre fusion that I guess you could call a tragic comedy. I don't think anyone has ever used that word before on this earth, and I think that if you presented that to someone, it would probably take them 15 minutes to figure out what it meant, because it just like seems kind of nonsensical, especially when you spell it out, like tragic comedy. What? But I think it's a really good description of like what the kind of total presentation of this book is. All right, so went over the plot, went over the illustrations, went over the entire overview of the book. Time to give it a score. You know, I really liked it. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna have to give it a tree 3 out of 8, mate. Good job. Okay, so I just finished filming this, and like, I have zero clue if I've been like leaning in and out of frame this entire time, and I probably have, and I'm probably gonna have to redo it all, and I'm gonna be really upset if I am. Live performances suck. If I could do everything behind my microphone, I would. Trust me.